Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Chill Film Discussions, episode 66. Wow, over 66 weeks because we've had taking breaks. But Raising the Red Lantern is the movie, and it's a Chinese movie. And it tells it's directed by Zhang Yimou, or I guess that's the Zhang Yimou. I don't know. Maybe that's the Chinese version of it. I have no idea, but it stars Gong Li, which I might be also mispronouncing the name, but I'm just looking at the English the English characters. I don't have the accents, so um, yes.
My impressions of this film, my thoughts. I thought it was a very engaging film. It is 2 hours long, right? But at the same time, it's a movie about you know a woman who kind of becomes the fourth wife to this man, and it's kind of a period piece set in like the 1920s, I believe. Yeah, so she the movie kind of details her life and how she kind of deals with this kind of concubine system, kind of vying for the favor of the master, and in doing so kind of getting a better lifestyle, with having the servants favor her, getting the food that she wants, right, getting the attention, and care from everybody in this kind of, as you say, a smaller society. But it's interesting because this character, the main character that we follow, the fourth mistress, Song Lian, is very complex because she, we kind of sympathize about her situation. She's kind of stuck in a marriage where she's not happy and she's alone, kind of surrounded by enemies or people who are antagonistic to her. But at the same time, she has a personality which is pretty mean, right? Who is almost unsympathetic, right? It's almost at times hard to follow along, because of like how she treats other people around her. She's a bit elitist and stuck up, right? And this might be because she thinks she's well, not that she thinks, but she is a bit more educated than the rest of the people around her. And
Hmm.
maybe also about her station, right? Oh yeah, she's the fourth mistress, she's the fourth wife, right? You think the servants would respect her, but that's not really easy, or how things go along. You get the respect if you get the master's favor, right? And she has to kind of vie for that. So it's very hard. She's surrounded by enemies, but at the same time, she's not a great person as well, which makes it hard, again, for me, hard to watch and support at times. So I don't know if I really like that. And that's the thing, she's a complex character. Is it, from the movie or the character that I don't really, am I picking apart? Not too sure. But there's so much to go about there, and not just her. A lot of the characters in this movie are very complex. There's different facets to them, which make them interesting and engaging. The third wife, particularly, there's so much to do, to look into her, right? You think she's
Yeah.
antagonistic at first, but she turns out, oh, maybe she's really not, or she has a reason not to be, right? And then she also has an affair, which is usually looked down upon, but we kind of root for happiness, right? But things kind of end tragically for her. And then the second mistress as well, very complex character. We think she's someone supportive, but she's not. And the maid as well, someone who's we come maybe expect to find camaraderie, because of their situation, but they are actually still antagonistic towards each other. So these characters are all, I think pretty well written, and are pretty engaging to watch. But there's really, some people are more sympathetic than others, and especially our main character, our protagonist. She is very complex, and I don't know if I wanted to root for her, or kind of want her to fend for herself. But she's
Hmm.
definitely in a situation where it's really poor for her, and she's trying to make the best of it, and she tries to do things, which may not end up well for her. And sometimes you question her decisions, or you question why she's doing it, and it becomes frustrating at times. Um,
Yeah.
but I did enjoy a lot of the movie in terms of like the cinematography. I thought it was very beautiful, well shot, a lot of wide shots, a lot of color, a lot of quiet moments as well. Just allowing these characters to think, and you're taking the scenery. It was really well done. And then I think the ending was also really well done, or near the climax, when it's found out that the third mistress had an affair, and the fourth mistress is trying to find out like what happened to her, or culminating to that whole scene. It was very thrilling. It was almost haunting, right? Because it's in the backdrop of all the snow. It's a very well shot sequence, and I think it'll be very, very memorable. So this film is there's a lot going on here in this period piece, and I did not expect it to be as complex as it was, and I think it's very enjoyable. But that thing, the sticking point for me is the main character is is not as sympathetic as you would expect. I mean, someone who you're following in their point of view to be. So that's my view. How about you, Patrick?
Yes, sir. So I think this film was overall. I liked the direction of this film. I liked the story, the plot, the symbolism, how it was directed, how it was shot.
Yeah.
It's a very self-contained story, so there's a lot of analogy, I guess, between sort of the setting, the characters, and I guess society
Right.
in general. But I did like how it was almost like there was a lot of like I guess politics involved because of the whole structure that was built up
Right.
by the symbolic of like the power dynamic with the master or the wealthy man, and having four mistresses, four wives,
Hmm.
all vying for his attention, all vying for power and for luxury.
Right.
So like it yeah, I mean it's essentially like a drama piece,
Right.
but it's almost like it also kind of highlights what society was like back then, in China. So it's almost you get to see like a glimpse
Right.
of you know history back then,
Hmm.
in some sense, which I really appreciate. And also I really like the fact that there was a big, not like a big twist, but there was a twist halfway through the movie, in the sense that like, oh yeah, like second mistress is good, third mistress bad, but wait, reverse Uno card. Second mistress is also playing the game, and
Right.
she can't be trusted. She's colluding, and now fourth mistress, our main character, is alone. She can't trust anyone.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think I honestly thought that this movie would have ended with her death, but she suffered a fate worse than death, in my opinion. She lost her mind. She
Yeah.
became insane. So it's very tragic. Yeah, and I also really liked the how the climax was shot
Hmm.
in this film, as you mentioned, with the wide shots, basically just showing the entire climax in one wide shot was unique, and I think it worked well, because yeah, I'm glad that the director trusted the audience to know what was going on. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this movie not overstates welcome. It's 2 hours long. It didn't feel
It
like
did not.
any scene really dragged on, which
Yeah.
was good. And I think it was like, nothing needed to be significantly added or cut, with the exception maybe I would have maybe liked more scenes with the first mistress's son and the main character, just because there was hints that they had little bit of a, affection for each other,
Hmm.
and it would have been nice to sort of see that play out more than in just one or two scenes. But that's just a small detail. Yeah, I think I'm glad that this movie ended almost. It was a tragedy. I mean,
Yes.
I'm glad that it ended in a tragic way, because I think that's sort of like it was sort of advertised from the very beginning that this movie was not going to end well, um because in the first shot it's almost like she's forced to become a
Mm.
mistress for this man that she doesn't want to be, but due to unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
So but if it didn't end with a tragedy, then a lot of the characters I think would have been seen a lot of different. Like I could have seen the direction with a lot of characters, um, and differently.
Hmm.
Um, Maid and the mistress, fourth mistress, could have been best buddies. Third mistress could have gone on with
Yeah.
eloped with the doctor. Maybe fourth mistress would have also gone on and left, or maybe she would have been top mistress with the first son.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, yeah, it was yeah, I think it was a well told piece. Um, and yeah, the story was self-contained and well shot. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough.
Okay.
Cool. So we'll just do our final ratings. Um, Mr. Austin, how would you rate this film?
I think I'd probably give this movie an 8. Um,
Okay.
I might have rated it lower, but I think after discussing it with you, it kind of brought up a lot of things that maybe I have not appreciated, looking back. And if I did a second watching of this movie, I probably would have appreciated this movie a lot more. I think the biggest sticking point for me, again, was that main character and how she was portrayed. I would have liked it. It
Yeah.
was more sympathetic, and maybe a little bit, as you said, maybe sometimes a little bit more competent. But
Yeah.
that would have been,
Yes.
I think, nice. But she is put in a kind of terrible situation, right? And she's trying to make
Yeah.
do with what she can. But I enjoyed all the characters because they're all their own character and they have their own kind of motives, right?
Hmm.
Especially and you kind of take things for one way, and the other things happen. It's just good writing, I think, overall,
Yep.
for the
Yep.
most part, right? And just even her character, even though she's not likable, it just makes her complex and someone almost believable. Like, yeah, she's trying to do what she can. I really love the direction. I think the director made a lot of good choices. With the movie, and I think here, I mean, usually it's maybe not as noticeable, but here I think you can kind of appreciate. There are some things where they could have gone a different way, but they did not. So it was well directed, and I think the cinematography is really great, and just the way that it was executed, I think it definitely feels like it's a movie to enjoy. But character wise, I think it's just, yeah, that was my main sticking point, really. But I don't think it overstays its welcome, even at the 2 hour mark. So
Yeah, I agree. I think this film was. I think that this film, even though the context was in the sense of um marriage and relationships and all that, it was more like a political drama, if you will.
it kind of, right. I mean, there's no,
Which is
the stakes aren't as high, right?
Stakes aren't as
Right,
high.
but it is, they are trying to politic around each other, like how to gain the
Yeah,
master's favor. And I
yeah,
again appreciate not having to showcase who the master was, right? We don't get any close-ups to see
yes,
his face, and that's
yes.
done
We
on
don't.
purpose, right? Just to show the focus is about he's the system. He's a
Yep.
character in this movie, but he's really also part of the setting, right? Where the
Yeah.
women are trying to compete for his favor.
Yep.
So he,
Yeah. We don't.
and you kind of pointed out having his face would kind of show, make him more empathetic, right? See him as a person, but he really shouldn't.
Yep.
In this context, really shouldn't, because he's part of an overarching, society, as you say. Trying to play them all against each other almost,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is unfortunate, right? But yeah, this movie,
Mhm.
there's so much going on, so much complexities to it, that might be
Yes.
hard to
Yeah.
capture on the first viewing, but it's just so interesting. And again, I think for me also that the ending shot, the sequence really just brought home just like how well it was done and haunting. It's definitely something that's very, very memorable. So I definitely would recommend this movie. I think it's something that would be a good watch, but don't expect it to have a happy ending.
Don't spoil it for everyone. No,
I
I'm
was
just
already
kidding. Yeah, if
talking,
you're
right?
watching this, it's already spoiled. But yeah, yeah, I was just gonna say that something else I liked about this film is that there's almost like an ebb and flow of like characters that you like and dislike.
That's true. Yeah, that's a
It
big thing.
changes
Yeah.
throughout the time. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I like this character. I think they might, turn around, but all this, but then as time progresses, your perception changes, and it's
Hmm.
almost like there's this yeah ebb and flow of perception And that kind of like comes in and out with like I guess how fickle the dynamic is and how toxic and how um I guess how everyone is not really showing their true selves because
Mm-hmm.
of these situations. So it's kind of like enhances the whole like more of like a political
Mm-hmm.
environment than like showing chasing anything that's genuine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I would also give this movie an 8 as well. Not because it's good luck in Chinese, but no, I think this movie definitely is well worth the watch. I would recommend it, especially if you're interested in how like I think society is portrayed, or different societies, different cultures are portrayed
Mm-hmm.
in older times. I think this is yeah, a lot of analogies can be made
Yeah.
between I think the dynamic of society back then and this movie's characters and context and setting. So um yeah, I think that's yeah, that's all I got.
Okay.
So if that's it, then we will see you again next week.
Yeah.
All right. Next week it is with a new movie that of course will be determined off stream.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right.
See ya.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.